Detroit City Security Department. Emergency alert. Please stand by. We are sorry to interrupt your daily programming. An extraordinary situation is taking place in our city. Please stand by. An unknown entity that we are informed is being called SpongeClock has been infecting Detroit. According to our investigators, there are currently 6 copies currently in circulation. They are small yellow plastic wristwatches that have small little green polka dots. The most notable thing about SpongeClock is that imprinted on the watch is the character of SpongeBob SquarePants. However, don't let the affable character of SpongeBob fool you. SpongeClock is an incredibly dangerous entity and should be treated as a top-level threat. It can cause extreme psychological harm and even death in the most extreme cases. It is imperative that anyone who finds SpongeClock must not wear it under any circumstances. This alert system does not allow us to show a clear photo of the object due to the lack of resolution. We have created a website specific to this situation with several images detailing the characteristics of SpongeClock. Please go to www.stopspongeclock.com. In case of doubt, we advise all citizens to avoid at all costs wearing watches and bracelets with SpongeBob designs. We are not currently aware if other types of watches are affected by this situation. You can use the website set up by our team for any comments or questions. We insist that all citizens report any findings of SpongeClock to your local police department. This situation is not taken lightly. We will come and pick up the watch. There is no need to go to one of the police stations. We have received news that the Detroit Police Department is constantly working on the clock to go and retrieve SpongeClock. They have observed the effects these watches can have on people and have declared them a national health hazard. We were given specific orders to portray the effects the watches have on people by them, so we will do so now. Fair warning to listeners, but the details of what this watch does to people are quite morbid. So any squeamish viewers are warned. The first test of SpongeClock was performed on a well-known criminal, nicknamed the Phantom Butcher for the brutal killing sprees he went on. This criminal agreed to be our guinea pig in exchange for a reduced sentence. This was done legally and secretly in the presence of the judge and the killer's lawyers. When SpongeClock was attached to the man, the police observed nothing for about 15 minutes. Then as the integration went on, a soundbite of the character SpongeBob's laugh played. Suddenly, the man's fingers began to grow longer. It is also noted that the man was in immense pain during this period of finger growth. So much so that 4 officers had to hold him down in the interrogation room for fear that the writhing man would hurt someone in the room. Once the growth stopped, the pain seemingly subsided, so they continued the interrogation. The soundbite would play every 15 minutes, and the killer would scream in agony. To the man's dismay, they continued this process for about 3 hours. About an hour in, he begged for the officers to stop. Once they reached the 3-hour mark, as indicated in the contract, the man was completely non-responsive. Any attempts to communicate with the man were utterly futile. He could be seen foaming at the mouth, rambling to himself. His fingers had become so long that they wrapped around the interrogation table. Upon further examination by a certified psychiatrist, it was found out that the unbearable pain that the man had gone through manifested into the worst case of dissociation that the professional had ever seen. The strangest part was that the subject was excellent, in a physical sense. He suffered almost no blood loss from the rapid growth, and his fingers had reverted back to their original state once an officer rotated the knob in the opposite direction. As you can see from this account, these watches are no laughing matter, and they can very easily ruin someone's mind in hours. The watches had gone missing from police custody at 7:15 last night. Our trusted source from the Detroit Police Department claimed that a crooked cop had been caught stealing the watch from the evidence locker. When apprehended and questioned about where he had taken the watches, the cop refused to answer, so the watches' whereabouts are currently up in the air, so we urge any listeners to come forth if they have seen these watches. The department has assured a large sum of money for anyone who hands over the watches. We believe that these can have enormous value on the black market since they can be used as objects of torture by street gangs or any other organized crime. If these watches were to fall into the wrong hands, They could cause a lot of damage to innocent people who have done nothing wrong. In the case of an extreme emergency where you have found one of these dangerous watches attached to your wrist, the first thing you need to do is remain calm. The police have also accounted for these situations and have devised a plan to disarm the watches. The first choice is to have the person who attached the watch remove it. It must be the individual who placed the watch on you. Due to unknown reasons, the watch does not come off at all unless the person who placed the watch on you attempts explicitly to remove it. Some clever listeners may think that another option would be simply breaking the watch or taking out its interior machinal structure, but this would be further from the truth. A deputy at the police department tried the same exact thing but was shocked to find that the watch still kept ticking forwards even though its innards had been completely taken out. It is clear that the watch plays by its own rules, so be sure to not mess with them, as it may result in precious time wasted. The other method that police have discovered for stopping the effects of the watch once it has been latched onto its owner is through the adjustment knob located on the side of the watch. If one were to pull the knob, it would, in turn, stop the ticking of the watch, which would prevent the terrible effects present. Of course, this is only a temporary solution as the person who placed the watch on you is the only one who can remove it. Turning the knob in the opposite direction will cancel the effects caused by the watch. We do not recommend that you do this without the supervision of the police and ambulance services. It is best to call 911 and wait for help to arrive before attempting this solution as it will cause extreme suffering. All you have to do is mention the name Sponge Clock and your address to the dispatcher and your case will be treated as a priority. We are currently in the process of legislating to suspend the sale of items with the image of SpongeBob. There is currently no connection between these watches and other items for sale, but we want to take no chances. When we examined the watch in question, we could not find any trademarks. There is little chance that this is an original product, but this remains to be confirmed. We invite you to talk about this case with your children in order to warn them of the danger and to help us in the event that they come into contact with one of these watches. Nickelodeon is currently preparing a short animation with SpongeBob intended to warn children. This one will be televised but also available on the website www.stopspongeclock.com. We thank you for your attention and assistance. We hope to resolve this situation shortly.